Welcome to the Law, Your Money, and You. I'm Roberta Saphire, an attorney in Sharon, Massachusetts.
And I'm Camille Barron, a healthcare advisor and financial organizer, also in Sharon, Massachusetts. And Roberta, ever since we've been running this series about the coronavirus, we've gotten so many emails from people wanting to know more, and they want us to keep them up to date as things evolve. So today we're going to be talking more about how things have changed, even since the last time we had a show on the coronavirus.
How about since the first time?
Even then,
The first show we had was Dr. Ross, who was
yes.
talking about it, but since then we now have more information about the virus, and they're talking about uh, three vaccines. So I don't think it's perfected yet, but it will be. But it's funny how the coronavirus is changing people's lives. Like we've had several students on, high school students, college students, students that are about to take the bar exam, but the bar exam's been postponed. What else are you aware of that's been postponed, which means everybody's life is on hold?
Oh my goodness. I mean, in the business that I work in, healthcare, many people have postponed other than critical healthcare needs. They've postponed things like elective surgery or even treatments for non-critical conditions. But the thing is that people really do need to continue to be cared for, and some things can't be done virtually. So if you
Right.
can't have a telehealth appointment, you have to wait. Or now things are starting to open up, at least where we are in Massachusetts, and to different degrees in other states.
These
But even then,
telehealth appointments, isn't that, I mean, that works for some things,
yes,
because I used to email the doctor before and send them pictures. But I mean, how does this telehealth, like if you need a knee operation, I think they call that elective surgery, do they?
I think so. Yeah, for the most part, I don't think there's ever an emergency, although there might be.
Yeah. So there is something where the surgery's postponed. They say hospitals are losing money because they can't charge for these quote elective surgeries. Do you know where this is your field? Are they letting them do those now?
Yes, they are. They are. That's one of the things that our governor here in Massachusetts announced last weekend, phase two of the coronavirus reopening. And now, in other states, people who are watching elsewhere, it may be different where you are, because each state has its own way and timing for reopening. But yes, in Massachusetts here, we're now able to have people go ahead with their elective appointments. And there's things that are starting to open up, dining outdoors, which was already in effect, but things like hair appointments, retail stores are opening. So, but it has to still be done with caution, because with the coronavirus, there are so many things that are still unknown. Even the health professionals don't know what might happen longer term. And right now, the concern is that we might start to see the coronavirus rates go higher if we're not very careful. And it's totally up to us as individuals to use the right judgment in each and every situation that we have to decide on how to handle it.
I notice people aren't wearing the gloves anymore because the story is the gloves don't matter, but I think it would matter.
Well, yeah, the surfaces. The CDC announced 3 or 4 weeks ago. And again, this is all, people are learning all the time. It's not like they were telling us wrong information. It's just that because it's an evolving illness, certain things are not known until time goes by. And what the thought is now is, although it is still possible to catch it from surfaces, it's less likely. And particularly when you have a short exposure time, say if you go shopping at a grocery store, people don't necessarily have to wipe down everything like they thought, because it's more likely that they're going to ingest air particles, and again, for longer periods of time. So just passing someone on the street wouldn't be likely that you'd be exposing yourself. So yes, things are always, new information is coming up all the time, but it's not as critical as far as the surfaces go. And that's why you probably see people wearing gloves less and less.
Yeah,
But the masks have to be done. The masks
yeah,
are totally needed.
I think it's good that we're reopened because what it is, it's just not one person staying in a house. You figure if they are in an office, any kind of an office, or any kind of a service, and they can't do that. First of all, there are a lot of people have daycare, so the daycare is closed, so that person can't go into work because their kids aren't taken care of. And then, uh, and then the daycare is losing money there, and somebody's paying all these PPPs and all that thing, so billions and billions of dollars. We're all ending up paying for it. So,
Mm. Mhm.
and then, for instance, I talked to somebody the other day, in the vacation rentals, visiting, just visiting, even if you're not on vacation, you're just visiting. Well, you can't visit for a weekend because that state you're in might have you come to that state, you have to do a 14-day quarantine. If you're only planning on coming for 3 days, how can you do a
Yeah.
14-day quarantine? Where are you going to do it?
Yeah.
And then I spoke to a person this morning who said they can't come in August because they were coming here for a wedding and the wedding's canceled. Well, when is the wedding postponed to? Well, they don't know. They're waiting for a date. So everybody's waiting. And
Right.
this a good one. The wedding industry, a wedding industry, you have in weddings, you have linens, you have bands, you have photographers, you have florists, you have, then you've got the food industry, that the food that they deliver, that the
Mhm.
distributors, the trucks. That's why the gas is so cheap. Nobody's buying it. But look how one thing connects to another, to another, to another. And then a lot of the states, they're not sure. Well, we don't know yet whether you can put 5 people at your table outside or inside. Well, outside, well, gee, you don't have space outside. Use the garage. Use the parking lot. Well, use a neighbor's parking lot. And I was going to say too, like you're very familiar with Rhode Island. About a month ago, the governor there, who's a woman, which is nice, she said that she was allowing outdoor dining,
Mm.
but it ended up it had to be in people's parking lot with a 5 at a table, or 6 at a table. Well, what if you have 4 kids
Yeah.
and a grandparent? So now you're 7. What do you do then? You tell one of them to wait in the car? I was wondering if you were aware of what happened in those circumstances or how it worked out. I
I am
haven't.
not. I haven't really been following that closely. And of course, my daughter and her husband, with their new baby, they haven't been going out to restaurants. So they probably couldn't tell me either. But yes, it is difficult. And one of the things, speaking of restaurants, that I read maybe a week ago, is if you're inside a restaurant, when the restaurant's open for indoor dining, one of the things that sort of wouldn't be obvious without thinking about it specifically, but I was reading about the air quality in some of the restaurants, or any place that you're indoors. The air conditioning and the exchange of air with outdoors. People could be carrying the virus, sitting at a table on the other side of the room, and it's possible those air particles could fall on other guests in that restaurant because the air particles are coming through the air conditioning. So even that we have to be thinking about.
But I think what they're requiring to do and what the smart food service operator is doing, they now have these machines, whether it's handheld or a stationary machine, where people walk through and it reads their temperature
Mm-hmm.
as they're going in. So if there's anything wrong at all with them, it picks them out,
Mm.
which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
They're able to do it, and I think those are in operation. Look at all the new new products coming out of this machines. I was in a store the other day wearing a mask, and I had to get out of there because I just couldn't breathe. I thought it was the mask, but then I was in another store which was really air conditioned, and I had no problem at all breathing. So when you say about the air and the air quality, that's interesting because usually air conditioning, maybe there's something with different types of air conditioning that filters the air. Do you
Or
remember?
maybe, you're right. The filter could be maybe in that store where you having trouble breathing. Maybe that filter wasn't cleaned or anything
Yeah, yeah.
that could happen.
Do
Yes.
you remember in the old days? I gotta say, the old days, there was a function facility, which is no longer a function facility. But in the summer, you had to make sure not to use table number such and such because it was right under the air conditioner. And if you sat there, you got soaking wet from the
No,
drips.
really? Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever had that? You sit in a
Oh,
place,
yeah.
it's dripping. Was it raining in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember I don't know, this might have been 30 something years ago, but I think it was the first time, at least I ever heard of a disease coming through the ducts and into the room, the air conditioning. Remember Legionnaire's disease? They
Oh, yeah,
call
that was years ago.
it was years ago, but that's what happened. They
That
were
was
in
before
the
my
close.
time. I mean, that
What's that?
was before my
Oh
time.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
what was it? Oh, because it started. Why did they call it that? Do you remember?
because this was in an enclosed room, had a number of people at the American Legion, I think, or something like that, and that's why it was called Legionnaire's disease. But everybody was getting sick, and nobody knew why. And it turned out it was because of the air that was coming in through the air conditioning, I think, at the time.
Isn't that amazing? There's
Hmm.
so many things. It's like my camera wasn't working on the Zoom. Remember
Hmm.
that? No matter what we did, I rebooted. We had a different host and this and that. And then after an hour of that, we realized it was the camera facing the wrong way. But sometimes it's an easy problem. One of the big things in the news today is the fellow George Floyd who died uh, because of really he was murdered. If you see that, but the point I want to bring up is not all police are like that. For instance, we do our police book. We've been doing our police book, and this is our 10th year. We would say we've been doing the police book for maybe 5 of those 10 years. And it all started really because the chief of police in Sharon at the time, Tilden, wanted to do something. He said, "What can we do to make community relations better?" And they were pretty fine then. And I remember I had just come back from New York, and I said, "Well, they have this coloring book," and then we started to make our own. Um, Zachary Chung, who worked in the office, he said, "We can do a better job than what these places were selling them," and we did, and that's how the first book. And we have worked with almost 24 police stations. We've done about 21 books. We have orders for 19 more. We've talked to
Unbelievable.
people in San Diego, LA, we started one. Um, and all these different police officers that we have dealt with and then delivered the books to them, they are our friends. They're all grateful and they're all wanting to show starting with the children that they're good guys, and they are good guys. So this what's happening now is really they're not like that. They are our friends. We want our viewers to know that they are our friends. And I mean, if you look, who do you call when you need something? It's the police.
Right, exactly. And I mean, it's like this in every field, no matter what it is. Uh, a few bad apples spoil it for all the rest. Um, there's been other situations like that. These abuses that were happening years ago in the Catholic Church. Not, the priests. You can't just say,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and but unfortunately, that's what happens. And at some point, though, and this applies to police as well, the institution that oversees these people, these workers, whether it's the priests or the police, they also have to have some things built into their operational procedures,
Right.
so that these things cannot happen even by a few bad apples. And that's where I think now this call for the police departments to do more efforts, whether it be training or banning certain things like chokeholds,
Yes.
so that it's just not allowed. And this other phenomenon that we're hearing, what's called defund the police, and
Mm.
it's a misnomer. I wish they would call it what it really is. It's not defund. What it is looking at the budget, and there may be certain functions that the police departments perform that might be better handled through another service within the city. If it's a health, if there are people who maybe need more access to health care or things like that, mental health care,
Yeah, mental.
instead of having the police be the first line of what's the word? The,
Notice or whatever.
yeah, the defund really just means reallocation of resources,
You
not
know
so that
something,
we,
you should go and testify. You put it better than anybody else. You are right. They don't want to defund. They want to put the request at the right department.
yeah, the oversight for people with mental conditions, it has to be to help them get the care that they need to manage those mental conditions. And I mean, the police, if somebody has a mental condition and they're doing something illegal, if it's determined that they have a condition like that, it should be something that they can get care for in another part of the city's resources.
But all states don't have that. Massachusetts happens to be, because we had done a study on this when we started our programs. We do financial literacy, the police officers are our friends, but with the cyberbullying and that, Massachusetts has in place a wonderful mental health department and things like that, where they have funding and they have programs to help people.
Hmm.
Thing is, I don't know if the other states have that, but I mean,
Yeah,
this is a wonderful thing. But you put it right way. It shouldn't be defunded. They should be redirected.
that's a better word. That's a perfect word, redirected.
Well, so did
Um,
I come up with that, or you came up with
you
that?
did, you did, and that's much better put than defunding.
So I
Um,
like, well, they're both to defund and redirect. We ought to go there. We'll straighten them out. Um, that's interesting. I want you to know some of the other things. We've had there are still situations that have not changed because the schools have stopped. Like a lot of, have you noticed the graduation? I watched our own local graduation.
mm,
What they did was outside on the sidewalk, they call each student up and they're in the car. They get
mm,
out of the car, they got their robes on. Somebody hands them their degree and a flower from a desk. They turn around, they take a picture, they get back in the car. But they've had their day. They've had
mm,
their day. I think recognition is important. And I think too that you take you take the situation that's handed to you, like a lot of these kids speaking. So you got a situation that's handed to you, make something out of it. Don't
mm.
just say, oh, we can't do anything. Make something out of it. And I was doing some research, and it turns out there was a song back in 1980 where it says the world is something, you can do something better. So all through the years there's always been some thing that you've had to work against or work for. But it's interesting. I mean, look at the I mean, all people are created equal, and they should be treated equally. But look at just women. I think women have just had the right to vote for the last, I don't even know if it's 100 years. the women's movement, where they were just considered a chattel,
Mm.
personal property. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet they didn't inherit. Uh, that's interesting. But some of our kids are still in the same situation. There are a lot that are doing things from home. They're taking courses from home. They're continuing things from home. I think some of the camps have opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have canceled.
Mm.
So that should be interesting. And I'm not sure what else I was looking into.
Oh, yes. The other thing is um, whether or not people should have their legal matters, their estate planning
Oh, yeah.
review now, because certain things have hit home, especially for families who've dealt with COVID-19. What do you think about that?
Well, that's funny because that's one of the things I was going to talk about, and then it just went. Maybe because I live it. Look at the books. But what's interesting is the legal the law offices. I think that perhaps it isn't as uh, tragic as it sounds for the others. Although there are a lot of them that's saying, well, like for the big law firms, it would be they would have to. A lot of them they're putting people on furlough, but you can still talk to somebody through Zoom. Of course, if you have certain elderly clients who don't even own a computer.
Mm.
Um, the computers they use are at the library. Well, the library's closed. They don't have computers anymore. Um, they don't work. Uh,
Mm.
the library here now is opening up, um, giving out books. You call in and they'll go out to the street. But for law, the courts were closed. That was a problem. The courts have been closed. Again, I think it could be the same in every state. It may not be. But here in Massachusetts, the courts have been closed. They are just starting to open up for like the doctors,
Mm.
you call in, it's you call in and you're able to file. You can file things. There is a recent law where you can notarize a document and
Yeah.
you don't have to be present. You can do it through Zoom and things like
Mhm.
that. And then you can file papers in court just by emailing, and they'll take it that way. Uh, there's another thing. They're still doing more, trying to get the clerks to take care of things rather than the judges.
Mhm.
If it can be, they're trying to do mediation, but they were doing that before, so it's opened up, but it's
Mm.
very, very, very slow. They're trying to get attorneys to settle things rather than go through uh, the court's time. Of course, you always have, you say there's a few bad apples. There are always bad apples that are looking little, and they'll say, okay, we'll do this, and then they don't show up, or they don't do this, and they just, uh, we call it play games. So
Mhm.
whatever profession you're in, you play games. As far as the estate planning, you can talk to people. Maybe it's easier to get people together now on estate planning than before because you've got the internet, and
Mhm.
and somebody in the family has a computer or can guide them or do things like that. Um, as far as so you got as far as the wills, wills you make your will out. That's the thing. You need witnesses. I don't know if they would allow witnesses unless they're actually there and seeing. But they probably would. Uh, but it would have to run through the legislature. That the law. Right now, a will is valid. You have to be in the presence of each other and in the
Mhm.
presence of the person signing the will, and you need two witnesses, and it all
Mhm.
has to be notarized. So you need the person signing the will, uh, the two witnesses, and a notary,
Mhm.
and they all have to be together.
Mm.
So maybe they would let a Zoom be together. And we should tell too, and we only have a few minutes left, but we should tell too about watch out for the latest scams.
Oh,
I got another one today which told me how they followed me to this porn site and how they're going to send everything. Well, they got the wrong one. No porn sites here. And then we still get the calls on they just want to take a survey, and are you a National Grid customer or an Eversource customer? Then click because you're a good customer. What it is they're the competitor. They're trying to sell you, and it goes on and on. It really hasn't let up. You really need a robocall thing for your phone, but that's one of the scams. And right around tax time, you get the calls that say they're from the IRS. The IRS doesn't call you. Don't worry
same thing with
about that.
financial institutions, banks and other financial
Oh,
institutions.
yeah, the banks. Oh, I've been getting a lot which says your card is expired. Click
Mhm.
here to bring it up to date, especially from Amazon, but it's not from Amazon. It's from other people. They're looking, and there are so much things looks innocent, especially today where everybody's ordering, to have the stuff shipped to you, and then
Yeah,
they'll say
yeah.
your shipment is on its way. Click here. You got to
Mm.
be so careful. One thing, and then I'll let you wind up, is you click on see, you can't see my fingers,
Yeah,
talking with my hands,
yeah.
is that if you look at the return address or who's sending it to you, check that out. Just run your cursor over it, and
Mhm.
that'll tell a lot.
Mm. Mhm.
Okay, and
Well,
we're looking for more volunteers and for everybody to come back to work.
yes, because we have lots of things we're still doing and even new things. And we're working on the third edition now. Almost, I think we're almost done with it, aren't we? With the
It's
prototype.
99.99% done.
The third edition of Police Officers Are Our Friends for the Town of Sharon.
And this book
And
got more and more children. People want their children in it now,
mm,
more and more. And it's a diverse book, which we've
yes,
always done diversity. But
yes, we have.
okay, well, thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. As you know, we're following COVID-19. We've been doing a series of shows on the different implications and consequences of COVID-19. And we'd love to hear from you if you have any other ideas or thoughts that you'd like to share with us, whether it's about COVID-19 or any other legal or financial matter. Please let us hear from you because remember, this is your show, The Law, Your Money, and
And
You.
you, I think you, you,
You?
you, you. Wonderful us.